Hello, everyone. This is Lauren Steiner. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Robust Opposition. So this is a rally tonight with Julian Assange's father and his stepbrother, John and Gabriel Shipton, because Julian's father, his parents separated before he was born, so his natural father did not raise him. So this is his father, essentially, and his stepbrother. They are doing a 17-city tour of the United States to try to bring attention to the unjust treatment of Julian Assange, who has been imprisoned first in the Ecuadorian embassy and now in Belmarsh prison in England, where he was supposed to be extradited for his quote unquote crimes. Oh, this green screen is really weird. For basically leaking these classified documents. We all know that Chelsea Manning was the one who got the classified information, and Julian Assange was just the publisher who published it to his site that he founded, Wikileaks, in 2006. And then it was also published in The Guardian, and other publications picked it up. Now, of course, this brought out all of the crimes of the Bush administration in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Julian Assange is considered to be a hero and a journalist and a whistleblower. And he is the the Obama DOJ decided not to extradite him and try him for treason, but the Trump Justice Department did. And the British court, several months ago refused to extradite him because they didn't feel, with his weakened condition after his imprisonment and confinement, that he would survive being in the United States. So he is there waiting for the resolution of his case. And just this week, the main evidence that was being used by the FBI against him turns out was recanted by the person who made the testimony, who was shown to be a diagnosed sociopath and a convicted pedophile. And Julian Assange is going to turn 50 years old on July 3rd. That's his birthday. And during his confinement, he has managed to meet and father two children with a woman by the name of Stella Morris. And it was just announced yesterday that they were planning on getting married in the prison, like formally married before his 50th birthday, and then hopefully have a nicer ceremony when he becomes free.
For those of you who aren't sort of up to date with what's going on in Julian's case, I'll just give you a quick update. So at the beginning of January, Julian won his extradition case. The judge found that if he was extradited to the US, it would basically be a sentence to death for him. He would likely commit suicide. The US DOJ immediately signaled their intent to appeal, and a few days later, Julian's bail was rejected, and so he's now in his third year of imprisonment in maximum security prison in Belmarsh, just outside London. It's a maximum security prison. It's where all the most dangerous prisoners in England are, and Julian is in his third year there, and he's an innocent man. He's a remand prisoner. He has no sentence. It's just another sort of example of this punishment by process that Julian's been suffering under for the last 12 years. As Marcy said earlier, there was a big news yesterday. Siggy Torderson gave chat logs that proved that the testimony that he'd given that was included in the prosecution's case was false. Their case will just begin to unravel now, and it's like this sort of domino effect that's been happening all the way since 2015, when the UN declared that Julian was being arbitrarily detained. Then in 2019, Neil Smeltzer, UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, found that Julian was being psychologically tortured. Then the Swedish allegations, that case just, evaporated, fell away. So it's all these things that just run on. The extradition is rejected. Embassy spying has been exposed. Julian was spied on in the embassy. His lawyers' meetings, his meetings with his doctors were all recorded. High definition cameras, sound. There was plots to have him poisoned by that security company who was doing the embassy security. So all these things, it's just like a domino effect now, and with all this sort of all this support that we're getting in the States and from just normal Americans, hopefully the dominoes can just keep falling, and Julian will be freed.
Yeah. The disgrace that the Department of Justice has heaped upon the United States is a shame that will last forever in the persecution of Julian Assange. The shame that the Swedish Prosecuting Authority brought upon Sweden has reduced the standing of Sweden from a model society we thought up until 1980 odd to an image of a country known only for selling junk furniture at IKEA. The United Kingdom, that's where all the laws started in Magna Carta 800, where the barons insisted that laws stand between themselves and the sovereign. As a consequence, the law becomes a two-way item and a shield to protect the people. And that's evolved over the hundreds of years into the circumstance where we have formal laws standing between the state and us. The United Kingdom has brought disgrace and obloquy upon itself in the administration of law in the case of Julian Assange, where they conspired with the Swedish Prosecuting Authority to keep Julian in the embassy. That's right. And all documented. The photographer here, Niels Ladeford, last year he and I went to Gothenburg in Sweden and picked up a FOI release of 5,127 pages, wow, which covered this item. The Crown Prosecuting Service writing to Marianne Nye, the Swedish prosecutor, saying, "You're not getting cold feet on this, are you? There's more to this than simple extradition." We advise strongly that the Swedish Prosecuting Authority doesn't proceed the case by coming to interview Julian in the embassy. Julian's lawyers took 2 cases in Sweden to force the Swedish to obey their own laws. It's not something they made up, it's their own laws that they were ignoring. These procedural contortions, fabrication of evidence, continue right through Julian's 11, now moving to 12 years of arbitrary detention. And so we come to today, or yesterday, where Thordarson admitted that he'd made it all up and submitted the evidence to the local Icelandic newspapers that he'd just made it up, and the FBI had made no inquiry to the quality of the information, that they were just enthusiastic about stringing Julian up. William Barr's the fellow, the Attorney General of the United States. Under H.W. Bush, he was known as the Snatcher because of his willingness and capacity to manipulate extradition treaties between the United States and countries wherein they wanted to judicially kidnap people and bring them to the United States. Charming fellow. Brought disgrace upon his nation, as Marianne and I brought disgrace upon the Swedish nation, as Paul Close and Keir Starmer, who's now head of the leader of the opposition, brought disgrace upon the United Kingdom. So starting from Magna Carta, one of the magnificent flecks of gold that come to human beings because we grind up a lot of ore. We have a lot of ideas, and occasionally you get a fleck of gold. Magna Carta being one. And then we come to the Constitution of the United States in 1797 from memory. A fleck of gold. The First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment is an umbrella that covers all of our arguments and gathers us underneath like a mother hen its chickens. Gathers us. We can have right-wing views, left-wing views, profound conservatism, radical Marxism, whatever. But the First Amendment gathers all of us under its protection, so that as a consequence of that, the polity, us, increase by conversation and understanding how to measure our society, how to contribute more, and how to evaluate government actions and go to government and say, we want this, not that, not what you're doing. It enables us to have those conversations and improve gradually the quality of the polity, us, the constituents. Chelsea Manning and Julian. Chelsea gave those, well, alleged, gave those leaks, the Iraq war files, the Afghan war files, the Guantanamo Bay files, and the diplomatic cables. A magnificent effort. I measure Chelsea Manning the way I measure Joan of Arc. A great figure in time, a historical figure.
He is.
The result of those publications, they're on file at Wikileaks. You can go there and look up you can look up any of your parliamentarians, corporations, congressmen, you call them. Essential figures. You can look up other figures around the world, Cameron from the United Kingdom, etc. And you can evaluate and you can build within yourself and your friends and your community knowledge equal to what the State Department has and says that they're special because they have this knowledge. Well, you can do the same yourself using those tools on WikiLeaks. The spread, it's taken 10 years to seep through the body politic of the United States and the Western world. And now they're withdrawing from Afghanistan. And it's only come about because of your concern, the gathering up of a wide, thin, gradually deepening knowledge among the polity of the United States and the Western world that we begin to doubt, and we call them now endless wars, which is a sort of an insult, to those that manage because my country is involved, I'll say manage our defence. A comic, endless wars. You can't even finish a war. You start them, you destroy a society and stay there forever and a day. That understanding has percolated up and they're out of there. Guantanamo Bay. The great American lawyer Clyde Stafford Smith established an NGO called Reprieve and got the Guantanamo Bay files downloaded from WikiLeaks and went to Guantanamo Bay and managed to free a number of prisoners. In particular, this one, because it's gross, it sticks in my mind. A United Kingdom citizen was in Guantanamo Bay and being tortured by having his dick cut with a razor blade. And managed to free them. 22 children went to Guantanamo Bay. Can you believe that? 22 children. And he managed to, well, they were no longer children, of course, because they got old. he managed to free them. That's Guantanamo Bay. So, as a consequence of that, on the agenda now, very strongly, is the closure of Guantanamo Bay, because we are, well, forgive me, I'm not an American, but my country is very much involved. We are repulsed. And we begin to understand that why it's in Guantanamo Bay is because the people there, the administration of Guantanamo Bay doesn't have to obey the laws that we exist under, that all Americans exist under. They put it over there so they can do anything. Torture modules, all of it. It's nauseating. It's nauseating. But the release of those files has brought about the urge from the populace that this must stop in Guantanamo Bay, gotta go. And so it is with us, not, I call them rainmakers, not rainmakers up there, but precipitating upwards from us. These changes come. We were doing a talk in Duke University with, I think it's Duke, it's spelled D-U-Q-U-E, just outside Chicago. And the professor there of media said, every semester I put $100 bill up on the board, and I say to the students, the fresh students, you can have that if you show one item of advance, of social advance, that's come from the top down.
Exactly.
He's still got his $100. He's been teaching there 20 years and nobody's managed to claim the money. That's the point I want to make, that these releases have percolated through the society and begun to change it. Because this society is huge and has a lot of interest in government, you don't see it changing. It's very hard to see. But they're out of Afghanistan. They're out of Iraq. Guantanamo Bay is on the list, very high to close. Why did it come about? Because the knowledge under the umbrella of that glorious thing, the First Amendment, allowed the discussions and the dissemination of the knowledge into us, and we brought about the change. And forgive me for saying we, it's just, the way I'm speaking. I feel bonded here, but I use
Yes.
Figured it out. Figured out how to get him by himself.
with those understandings. The first one is the shame and disgrace that those parts of the DOJ have brought upon the United States in the persecution of Julian Assange. The disgrace that the Australian government has felt for its complicity. Acquiescence over time is complicity. The disgrace that the Swedish people have to bear for the actions of the Swedish Prosecuting Authority, and the disgrace that the United Kingdom bear the actions of the Crown Prosecuting Service. That's the shame and disgrace. As opposed to that is the joy that a community can feel that had brought an end through the glory of the First Amendment, allowing a discussion, and that discussion causes changes in the way the governments act. That's pretty good. You have to, say thanks to yourself. So that there's no burden of conscience upon this society for the actions of the disgrace that they brought upon the Department of Justice, and the same with the Swedish people and the same with the UK people. Just want to make that really clear. There's no burden of conscience. In fact, it's the opposite. It's an upwelling of support and demand for improvements in the structure and improvements in the administration and improvements in the social outlook of government. And I thank you all. Hope I haven't gone on too long.
And hopefully he will be freed and allowed to go home. Where I think he wants to go is Australia with his soon-to-be wife and 2 children, where he will be most safe. Although I understand that Mexico has granted him asylum anytime he wants it. So it's just really a travesty that you have these human rights groups like the ACLU and the Human Rights Campaign sort of doing a nominal defense of him, but not actively campaigning for his release. And the same thing with the New York Times and the Washington Post and the other supposed venerable newspapers in this country, or the Guardian in London. This certainly is an issue of freedom of the press. Try as they might to twist themselves into pretzels and make it like it is, espionage and terrorism. I mean, the fact that Obama had prosecuted more journalists and whistleblowers under the Espionage Act than all presidents combined in the 100 years since that act was enacted, the Alien and Sedition Act during World War I, is just outrageous. I mean, Obama, who was a constitutional law professor, Obama, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, was the one who was prosecuting these people as, spies. And as we know, this act was political persecution to keep people in jail who simply had differing political viewpoints. And they went as so far as to kill Julius and Ethel Rosenberg in the gas chamber, just simply for having different political opinions. How has this tour been going? How many cities have you been to? And what has been the reaction that you've been getting? And what do you hope to get out of this?
I think so. The reaction, the touring's been amazing. It's been incredible. The amount of support we've seen everywhere has just blown us away. American hospitality is, it's amazing. I've heard stories about it, but never experienced it quite like this. So, we've been sort of walking on air since we got here. I think, with all the events and things we're doing, we're seeing this sort of upwelling of support from just normal people. And that's getting a lot of media interest, and the media is sort of engaging with us again. I was talking about before, there's 30 plus articles since we've arrived here that have come out. It's reverberating all around the world. So Australian press is reporting on what we're doing here and the people who are coming out. German press is reporting on it. French press are reporting on it. So it's sort of creating this ripple effect around the world. And the reason why we're here is because this is where the decisions are made, and this is where this case these charges can be dropped from. So that's the reason why we're here, to build this, almost like a movement to sort of defend Assange and defend freedom of speech.
Now, my friends are very concerned about Julian's health, both his mental health and his physical health. What can you share about that and the conditions that he's living under as we speak?
Well, Julian's in maximum security prison just outside of London, so it's the most heavy-duty prison in the UK. He's there with convicted, the worst criminals, basically, worst violent criminals there are. I saw him in October last year, and after I saw him, the prison went into a COVID lockdown, so he didn't have any visits for 8 months until last weekend, when he was finally able to see his family for the first time in 8 months. So he's been, he's suffering in there. They're trying to crush him, but I think all these actions that we're doing and all these people that are coming out are giving him some energy to keep fighting and to keep going.
Now, Julian started Wikileaks in 2006, and it's been a great source of information for people who don't feel they get the information about their governments that they should be getting from what we call the mainstream corporate media, and some of us call stenographers for the corporate state. I'd like to ask you, growing up with Julian, when I interview activists on my show, I say, what influenced you in your childhood or as a young adult that made you want to be a champion for justice? What influences would you say affected Julian?
Julian's about 11 years older than me, so we sort of connected more when I was in my teens. But at that time, when we sort of at that time he was developing this piece of software called rubber hose cryptography, which was a piece of software that would had several layers of encryption, so that if you were a journalist traveling with source information, say crossing a border or something like that, and the people who wanted the information were going to torture you, you could have one layer where you could give up a password, and then the people there could think, well, that's the people, the torturers would think, oh, well, that's all the information. But actually underneath there is an undetectable layer that had the information already hidden underneath, so that the source would be protected if the journalist ever got tortured for the information. So he always had this, he was always thinking about how he can use technology, how can he use skills like that to make journalism better and make and just get things out to people, get information to people, and educate people about their circumstances so they can make better decisions.
What is the biggest misconception that you think people in this country and around the world have about your brother?
Oh God, there's so many. Where do you start? I think Julian is a man. Like he's a human being just like us. I think that is the biggest thing. He's not he's not some figure. He's a brother. He's a son. He's a father. I think just humanizing Julian is really one important thing that we can do as his family. So I think it's important to just remember that Julian Assange is just a man.
Now, we understand that his wife or his girlfriend Stella announced yesterday that they are going to be married probably in the season before his 50th birthday, which is in a couple of days. Are you guys going to be able to make that or not really?
What's that? Am I going to make
his wedding?
I wish I could. I wish.
Yeah.
It's been a bit under wraps for a while now, but so it's good that Stella's announced it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just things like this that keep him going in there. So.
Write to the Department of Justice, write to Attorney General Merrick Garland, and say you want him to drop the extradition proceeding, drop the underlying charges against Julian Assange tomorrow. That this is a threat to the First Amendment, to freedom of the press. It has a chilling effect on journalists and on whistleblowers who want to serve the public by revealing wrongdoing and crimes. And that's one thing that we can do. And also copy that email and send it to the White House. Google the White House.
And here's the postcards that she made for today that everybody's signing. She's got a whole pile that people have signed.
Yes. Also, if people live in a congressional district or a state where you have representatives who serve on the House Judiciary Committee or the Senate Judiciary Committee, please ask them to contact the Justice Department to write a letter and make their position public in calling for the dropping of this case against Julian Assange. So those are a few things people can do.
We all need to be out there reminding people that what Julian has done is what keeps us all safe. It's just like, if you can't have freedom of speech, we're doomed. And that we have to keep fighting. And it's really good that Gabriel said he's just a man. It's up to all of us to have that level of integrity, that willingness to go up against the machine and what did you call them? The corporate rulers of the planet or whatever.
Well,
So it's just, we can't ever surrender ourselves or our values to the insanity that we see all day, every day.
Well, thank you very much, Jodie. Thank you for founding Code Pink when this whole Iraq war started. And thanks for staying in the fight. And thank you for helping bring us this broadcast. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is one of 17 cities that they're going to. I hope people take the action. I will get that address and also put it in the comments. People can write the State Department and ask that they drop the extradition proceedings and the prosecution of Julian Assange, who is really a national hero as a whistleblower and a journalist, not as a traitor. So with that, I'm going to sign off and say thank you very much and keep fighting.